Well, Honeyman, thank you so much for joining us here on Machine Heads. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here, Wayne. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll hop right into some of the things that I wanted to ask you today. It's been a really busy last couple of years for you guys, I kind of want to start with just kind of some general information about yourself, because I feel like you have a pretty unique and really cool position at Bobcat. You're the vice president of global innovation. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, your career history, how you joined Bobcat, some of the things you like about the company, and kind of what your day to day or your responsibilities at Bobcat are like.
Sure. Well, I've had a heck of a journey here at Bobcat. I'm entering my 27th year here, and I've had a number of different roles. I really started my career in the training and then went quickly into sales. So I was in our sales group and ran our sales org for 10 years. So I was the vice president of North American sales for 10 years. And then I started to move more into product and got some interest there. And it was going on, it'll be our 10-year anniversary of us opening the Bismarck Acceleration Center, which was a real milestone for us as a company to create this cross-functional space. And that fell under me. And through that kind of discussion with product and the things we were doing there, we started to talk about, through our CEO, Scott Park, about innovation and really doing some things that were really cutting edge, but really experimenting with all the different technologies that are available out there. And we do a lot of R&D activities, and those are really some ground up kind of activities. We spend lots of time there. But then we took a look to say, well, what could be done kind of tops down from that perspective, and take a look at that. And so we started really small. I would say this journey for a dedicated innovation team started 7 years ago with like 4 people,
Wow.
me and 3 others. And we just started building things and building some concepts and doing some things that kind of made sense from a perspective of, we've been building this great equipment for 65 plus years. Well, what can we do to it that helps that equipment become, more productive, faster, better, easier, safer, whatever it might be. And so that's where we really started this journey, that part of the journey. But also collectively, my team really works with the whole organization, because innovation just doesn't come from my team or a few people. It has to come from an organization if you're truly going to be an innovative company. So we've been doing a lot of cultural things. We have an internal crowdsourcing platform we put into place to gather ideas from the inside. We do Shark Tank events and some other things. But a lot of these things start to culminate from some of our internal demonstrations we do of the things we're working on.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like this is kind of a big part of the conversation that I want to have with you too. But there's such a huge kind of grab bag here of things. Hearing about the way you guys started, that must have been a really interesting time, and I feel like it probably doesn't get any easier in terms of picking the technologies or the things that are buzzy right now, whether it's mixed reality or autonomy, electrification, all of that good stuff. How do you guys, you mentioned kind of trying to hone in on things that are going to make the equipment better and more productive, more efficient in the field. How do you guys kind of navigate your way through all of these various technologies that are kind of hovering around us right now, and kind of like all slightly on the horizon, but also kind of playing an interesting role or a smaller role right now in the current day to day? How do you guys kind of make that determination of what's going to make the most sense to kind of focus your efforts on, and what will be kind of the best stuff to bring into the field today?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, and it's a tough one, and I would
Right.
say it's been a journey. But it really starts with some of the basic needs. And again, we have the advantage. We've been around for 65 plus years. We know what our equipment does, right? We know what a skid steer, an excavator, and these other things do. Now it's how do you make this more productive? So what we've been doing, and I think what my team has been really good at is we take these far-reaching technologies and then we apply them to one of those pain points: smarter, better, faster. and then we build that concept really quick, and then we take it to customers. That has been what I think has been our really good litmus test. And we've taken some bombs to them, like some things that are just terrible. uh, and they're like, this is bad. Like, no one's ever going to buy this. Okay, it doesn't work. All right. But then there are some concepts that are really cool, or they pivot off of something we're doing, say, hey, can you take that and do this with it? Like our Max Control was a really good example.
Hmm.
We showed a bunch of far-reaching technology around autonomy, and we were making a loader go back and forth, an auto trailer load, and our team had set up this rudimentary remote control on an iPad. It was like huge. You're handing, and so the team was just using it just to set up the equipment because it helped with the demo and doing stuff. And then we had customers in our session go, well, hey, can we just get that remote control you guys had? What, like the one on the iPad? Yeah. Why do you want that? Well, I wouldn't have to get it out of the machine, and I could use it for so many things. And other customers joined in, and wham, that's what we commercialized. That was the first
Right.
thing we commercialized a number of years ago. But it was out of that type of process that we were able to sort through. And again, we have some advantages because we know, obviously, we know what our customers are doing every day, and just trying to figure out, well, how does it make them better? And so I think that building these types of prototypes really, really quickly and fast, and sorting through them all, showing customers 20 or 25 different things and going, hey, these are top three or four, or
Mm.
these are the bottom three or four, just forget it, I think is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that is definitely one of the differentiators with you guys is you are working at a particular pace, but you guys are also showing your work as you kind of go. And I think a really good example of that, you're one of the major presences now from the construction equipment industry at CES every year, the
Yeah.
Consumer Electronics Show. You guys were there this year, had a fantastic showing there. Tell us a little bit about that. Is not the typical. I mean, it's becoming a more typical construct and an annual presence for you guys there, which was not a trade show on the construction
Right.
equipment industry radar, several years ago, but it's kind of up there now with the Con Expos and the World of Concrete type shows. And but what's that show like for you? How do you guys how do you compare it to a construction
Right.
trade show? You and I were talking a little bit about audience a little bit before this started. Those are two massively different audiences between the folks that come out to Con Expo and CES. But tell us a little bit about how CES compares to a typical construction trade show, and maybe some of your favorite things at CES this year.
Sure. Well, this was our third show at CES, and we have a rotation where we have a booth every 2 years. So that we started this 4 years ago, but we first went to the show 6 years ago. I remember with our CEO and a couple other people. In fact, we weren't even sure we were going to get tickets to get in, like because we were in awe. Like we're at the Consumer Electronics Show. I've always wanted to go to it. I'm a tech geek, so I love seeing this stuff. And we started going to some of the sessions. We started seeing some of the people who are there. And the next year, our CEO leaned over to me and he goes, "Hey, Joel, I think we should have a booth here. I think we can go here." And it was also part of our strategy. And I think, some of our competitors are there too. We're trying to show that we're doing tech in construction and ag, and that's hard, right? If you're if you're a software engineer or someone, a guy or a gal coming out of college, do you want to go work for one of the big tech firms in Silicon Valley, or an Amazon or a Google or someone, or are you going to work for a equipment manufacturer? So I think it was important for us to show that we are working on tech, that high tech is coming to our equipment and our platforms and our industry. And if you want to be a part of that, come be a part of it, because I tell people we build real things. It's one thing to be a software engineer when you're doing coding on programming, but that coding on programming becomes part of a machine that we've built and bent the metal and do the welding and all these other things. So that was another really big part of us going to CES. And from where we were 4 years ago, from the first show to this last one we just did, has been night and day. Like this last show we did in January was just phenomenal. We had three different concepts there. Well, more than three. We had three machines there with showing multiple concepts, but we really belonged at that show. Like we really got some mainstream tech press and some, some people that were just in awe. And you asked like the type of people that go, yeah, it's not our customers, but it's the people who are in this tech industry. And we had the Rogue X2 sitting there, and I just happened to see a guy was standing by. I started talking to him, and he goes, "Hey, that machine was really well done. Compliments to your designers and engineers." I said, "That was great. Well, who are you?" He goes, "I used to work at BMW. I was in the design center. I'm a former engineer, at the design
Cool.
center." I'm like, "Wow, what a compliment, to get from people outside the industry." And that's the other
Mm.
part. Like, if we're really going to do tech and really bring the best technologies, we have to get outside our industry to bring those things here. And so that was another really big part of why we went to CES.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a cool opportunity, and I think that the obviously the automotive manufacturers have started having a bigger presence at that show as well, and it's technology has gone from this very niche kind of thing to something that everybody is not only interested in but interacts with on a daily basis. I mean, the way that our phones are so integral to our lives, the fact that internet connections are just as important as electricity today. I mean, it really does really make sense that all of these industries are now kind of like coming together around that show as things progress. But the kind of appearance of these construction equipment manufacturers at CES in the last several years is it's definitely kind of turned some heads from those. I would think like in a way that probably the automotive industry hasn't really. And I think that's probably just from the standpoint of the fact that people don't get to interact with construction equipment as much as they would obviously an automobile. And you kind of touched into that too with kind of the outreach to some of the students kind of graduating from universities and the importance of your presence there. A lot of manufacturers though are working on electrification, autonomy, but you guys are really pushing the envelope. I think in a way that's a lot more prolific than some of these other manufacturers. Is that a function of your position? Why is this type of innovation and everything kind of so important? And I guess the real focus of that question really does focus on, you mentioned earlier, that pace that you guys are trying to work at, and you're showing multiple examples. It's not just one thing. You're not just releasing electric concept after electric concept. You guys are really kind of like holistically integrating these types of technologies and all of the important technologies. What's kind of behind that pace, and why do you guys feel like it's so important to really dive into each of these things rather than just one or two?
Well, culturally, right? We were the innovator, or we started this industry. We built the first skid steer loader 65 years ago, and that was built on innovation. And I think we took a reflection back, again, a number of years ago when we built the acceleration center and had some other internal initiatives to say, how do we position ourselves for the next 65 years? And what do we need to do to be relevant? And we got really good competitors, big competitors. They're good companies. And so if we're going to compete in a global stage, we got to be at the top of our game. And I think that's where a lot of this drive comes from for us to bring these different initiatives out there. But I think what's really important is we make them real. We don't want to be the company that just shows PowerPoints and fancy pictures and never comes out with anything. And so launching these products, launching variations of them are really important. But we're doing this in a way that we balance both. Like our core business, the things we do today with diesel hydraulic, they're going to be around a long time. We're going to build them for a very long time. However, there are customers who want these solutions. They send us emails and send me notes, and we get phone calls, and we're like, hey, do you have this solution or that solution? And so we're there for those people that want those solutions. And it's a great trial period for us to go with some early adopters who want to try this new cool technology. They know it's a bit out there, and they work with us on that. Meanwhile, we're making it mainstream for other people. And so I think that's been a bit of our journey that we've been going on.
Yeah, and let's get into some of these specific things that you guys have been showing off. I know one of my personal favorites, and I first saw this back at Bama, where you guys were displaying it. I do think it's a perfect example of the type of stuff that is setting you guys apart from the rest of the pack. But it's this LG OLED transparent display. And you guys are using these transparent displays. The idea being that you could put this display into the window of a cab, and like I said, you guys first had it on a telehandler, I believe, back at Bama, to kind of help out with kind of the how the boom of the telehandler can
Yep.
kind of actually get in the way of an operator being able to see through one of the windows, which is a really fantastic idea. But then here at CES, you guys had it definitely the more kind of highly used machine, which is the skid steer, but specifically in the S7X electric skid steer. Tell us a little bit about this screen. Maybe if it has it improved since that 2019 version. I have to imagine that it has, the way that things are changing. But tell us about this screen and how the development came about, that partnership with LG, and what you guys kind of foresee this thing doing in the future.
Yeah, this is a really cool tech. And I think of all the things we showed at CES, this had the most wow factor and positive play, was that LG screen, embedded in we had it on a skid steer in the front door, the front glass of that skid steer. But we've been talking and looking at different displays. And in fact, we saw a projector display, an automotive projector display at CES. And I want to say this is going on like 6 years ago now. And that got us really excited. And I personally got to play around with it in our shop building. We had a group bring it in, a company. We did some work with it. In fact, we showed it at one of the CSs, the projector, and it was a fail.
Hmm.
The projector, just doesn't really work in our environment, with the bright light, the bouncing, the other things. But what we discovered out of that is that why can't we use glass as a display? And so our team pivoted, and again, this is what my team does, and I'm so proud of them. We started thinking about OLED screens, for advertising. You see these in these big buildings. You know what they did? We literally ordered a 52-inch OLED TV and peeled it out of the case and
Hmm.
mounted it in an excavator because the excavator glass is a little bit bigger, and so it fit. And they mounted that up and they turned it on, and I'm like, wow, hey, I
Hmm.
think we could have something here. And this is long before we talked to LG or anyone directly. And so then we started to message them, got with one of their developing partners in California who's helped us along the way here. And we've continued to advance that development. And of course, OLED technology is relatively new also. So, we're along for the journey with them. But to your point, from 2019 to what we showed this last year, it's night and day different. And then also the feature sets that we can now do, and it's really cool. So what we showed at CES was the ability to see objects in real spatial area in augmented reality in 3D. So as you drive the site, there's a stereo camera in there that's actually looking across the site where you're looking. And so you could see worksite features, you could see different obstacles, utilities, whatever it might be, and you can see those on the screen. And you start talking about that with grade and elevation and some other things that we can do with video. The possibilities are endless, but it's just the fact that these machines have so much glass and we're so limited in space, like us and our friends in production agriculture and some of these other applications. It's just natural to think, well, let's use the glass now as part of our display, in some form or fashion. And so that's where this came from, and clearly we feel like this is where it's heading.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good example of turning a limitation into really a strength, and looking at the capabilities of this display. The Apple's Vision Pro is kind of like all over the news right now, talking about how its big strength is the pass through display, the density of the kind of screens inside, kind of leveling up over kind of what was possible. This really does have so many of those capabilities in a technology that you're displaying today, that really feels like you really could just put that in a machine today and get a lot of the benefit out of it, that Apple and Meta are trying to figure out right now to fit inside a pair of glasses, or a much smaller headset. how confident are you guys in this technology, and give us an idea of kind of like what the timeline is looking like, or what you're hoping the timeline is looking like. What are some of the challenges you guys have yet to solve to kind of make this exactly what you want it to be, and how important do you think augmented reality is going to be on the job site?
Yeah, so I would say, right in the middle of development, where we're going to be looking at, okay, what size does the screen need to be? What kind of content? What is the position of it? So we're going to have prototypes out in the field this summer to gather that exact feedback. We're really excited to get those out and to have customers just drive them on a site. It's one thing to show it at some show, right? It's got to be a home game for the contractor. Put it in a machine and let them use it, and then tell us the good and the bad, and really start to work through it. So we're going to spend a lot of time this summer going through that piece of it. And then it's probably up to us and LG to figure out, timing of manufacture, mounting in the glass, those types of things down the road. The content wise, I think once we've built the screen, the content can be added later too. Like the nice part is it's a canvas. I tell people this is a canvas on glass that we can use for lots of different things. And as we work through those use cases and that, we can always add more content. So I think it's going to be it's a fun project. Our team loves working on this one, as you can tell. Um, but it's going to be an iterative process because we got to make sure it works every time, it's reliable and simple to use.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, I mean, it could be as simple as just kind of getting all the gauges and everything kind of into direct view and off of, a 7 inch, extremely tiny by comparison 7 inch
Hmm.
display. It has it. One thing I don't think that I mentioned earlier too is that it has touch capability as
Yes.
well,
Yeah. Yeah.
which you mentioned a canvas. That's just the perfect word for it in terms of being able to put controls in there and everything. I mean, it really could be as simple as elevating that 7 inch touch display
And auto
or
tint.
10 inch.
And it
Right.
auto tints too. That's the other cool part is we manually tinted it at the show, but we'll have auto tinting capabilities. So if you go outside, it can adjust the tint for the light or the conditions you're in, and then you can also manually adjust it.
That's
Another
cool.
technology that we're adding in along with.
Yeah, I mean, but and then into the future though, with the stereo cameras and everything else, I mean, that's when it kind of shifts to becoming something that I feel like from the development standpoint, and then you're moving into, okay, now how do we start developing kind of like software
Yeah.
or applications for this
Yeah.
thing that move into that AI type of realm, and I'm sure you guys are already starting to think about some of those stuff. But again, that's just a perfect example of kind of the direction that it's taking the industry in, that you really couldn't have, I would say, foreseen even 10 years ago. Kind of coming in, it's just really cool. Another really cool kind of concept that you guys have been showing for a few years now, or a couple of years now, are these Rogue X concept machines.
Hmm.
Now, you guys unveiled the latest version of the Rogue X, which is the Rogue X2, at CES, and this is the skid steer evolution of the original Rogue X, which was a CTL based
Yep.
concept that was unveiled less than a year ago at ConExpo 2023. That was a really big unveiling for you guys there. Now, to give people kind of like a refresher on this, these are cabless, fully electric,
Yes.
and autonomous concept machines. But that's really just kind of like the basic idea. And I want to start with Rogue X for people that may have missed this one. And then we'll get into Rogue X2. What was really the goal of this machine? This is the tracked machine.
Hmm.
What was the goal of this machine? What sort of innovations does it feature? Because really, like I said, the electrification, the autonomy, the cablessness, that's really just the start of it. What innovations does it feature? And what is it kind of, what sets it apart from the compact track loader of today?
Yeah, so you said it, because it was cabless, and we gave our engineering team a challenge. We said, look, if we start to throw out some of the paradigms of how equipment is done today, what would we do differently in the future? And of course, the one thing we said, well, if you remove the operator station, you can do lots of different things because, of course, there's lots of trade-offs we make as manufacturers when you have an operator in the cab of the machine for visibility, all kinds of controls, all these different things. Well, those are all gone. And so it allowed us to put that lift arm right down the middle of the vehicle. And when you do that, you can do all kinds of different things. Like you don't need two lift cylinders. You only need one. In this case, it was an electric actuator. But in that Rogue X, the first thing it allowed us to do is do a different geometry, unique geometry that allowed that lift arm to raise but also move forward. So you get almost 2 feet more of reach at the top of your dump. And for, and I can tell you, our engineers, and everybody struggles. How do we get an inch more of reach or 2 inches out of the current
Right.
platforms? Oh, I'm going to give you 2 more feet. And if you're a contractor who's dumping in a truck or a hopper or something, that's a big advantage to being able to have. So that's just, that's one example. And then also the ability on that same platform through the software, you can have a vertical lift platform or you can have the radius lift platform. And so you could do all kinds of things, like you could almost make it a forklift and you could go up straight up and down, or you could go, well, I want to be able to lift back and be able to have more reach at the midpoint of the machine. And so you can do that all on the same platform. Again, these are the things you can do when you kind of throw away the old rules and you decide that you can do whatever you want to do with that platform. And again, those are some of the really, really cool things that we did with that first Rogue platform.
Yeah, I mean, and I think too, uh, getting into going back to that idea of kind of what is setting you guys apart right now. I really think it's that so many of the concepts, quote unquote, that we see aren't really concepts when at these trade shows as much as they are. Hey, this is the prototype of the thing we're definitely going to release, and this is about as close to market scale as we can get the machine. We're just gathering some last minute kind of information and response to it. But you guys are really comfortable, kind of like, okay, hey, this might never happen, but the exercise of putting it together. You mentioned with the geometries of these the loader arms that it was made possible by removing the cab. The whole thing, that the purpose of it is the exercise of building it, and what you learn by getting rid of all of the things that normally weigh you down because you're trying to fit the machine to the expectations of the industry and everything. And with Rogue X2, you guys actually are continuing kind of like this exercise, right? You remove the tracks this time. You're going to put wheels there, so it's more like a skid steer. So yeah, tell us what the kind of benefits of cabless and trackless are versus the Rogue X. How does the Rogue X2 kind of differentiate itself from the Rogue X?
Yeah, the skid steer was an interesting one. That's our heritage, was the skid steer loader, and so we said, well, hey, let's take a look at the skid steer. And from a performance standpoint on electric, skid steers consume far less energy than track loaders. So we can actually get up to 8 hours on a battery on a single charge, 8 hours of runtime on that vehicle. And so the significant increase in that, as obviously is going to be valuable for customers out there. And then just not everything needs to be a track loader. Like skid steers have a real practical place yet, and for certain applications. And so it allowed us to do both platforms, to find out. And I would say on both of these, what we're trying to do as a company, and you brought it up, Wayne, we may never manufacture this vehicle as it currently looks. But there are certain concepts and certain features of each of those vehicles we very well may. And it allows us to look at those best aspects and find out where they fit in our different strategies as we go forward, and features, whatever those things might be. And so that's really, really important to us to take a look at. And so there are things maybe with that lift arm geometry that we might apply to current loaders, or something that we're doing with mounting of lights and sensors, things like that we did on there. Well, we're going to bring those to our current products. And so that's, again, another way how we view these platforms.
What has been the response of that you guys have seen from maybe ConExpo and CES? What was the response that you guys got to these Rogue machines, and what kind of features are you kind of finding to be the stickiest, or maybe even the most intriguing to customers that might be the best candidates for what you said of translating into a commercial product.
Right. Well, of course, the first question we get from some kind of, hey, when can I buy this? Does my dealer have this? My Bobcat dealer? I'm like, oh, they don't. They might be as surprised as you are that you saw it. So we have to temper some expectations. I think it's just getting people's heads around. And again, these machines can be run remotely or autonomously. And I think it's this whole concept, well, how's the future of work going to be done? And, and again, we're in an industry where there's a labor shortage and we're trying to find labor and contractors are struggling in certain applications to do that. And how do you do that? And then is there a platform that's more quiet, that offers environmental benefits, combine those things together, lower maintenance. It's all electric. There's no hydraulics. There's no engine. So you have, there's other than the battery, there isn't a lot to fail on these vehicles, and so you have a lot less points, fewer parts. And so I think when you start to explain it to people, they get their heads wrapped around, what that could be. And again, it's not for everybody. People love their current product. That's fine. But there's certainly people and applications that we talk to that are very interested in these types of platforms for that combination of different things. It might be increased power. The power that you can do in an electric platform that you can't do in diesel hydraulic is just incredible. And being able to utilize that in certain applications would be, again, allow people to be more productive, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and the thing that kind of impresses me so much about the Rogue X2, the fact that you guys got the next kind of concept from that original out in less than a year. But it really wasn't that long ago, Con Expo 2020, that you guys were unveiling your first, prototype electric loaders, period,
Right.
at that show, and they look a lot different than the two eventual machines that you guys are fully planning on commercializing, with the T7X, which is on the market now, and which is the compact track loader, fully electric compact track loader, and the S7X, which is the fully electric skid steer. But let's start with that T7X. Get a little bit of an update from you on that. You guys have brought that to market. Tell us a bit about the availability of that product, how people are currently getting their hands on that. I know that you guys have a partnership with that one, but yeah, tell us about the work it took to kind of get that into the market, and how that's informing the concepts like the Rogue X that you guys are working on right now.
Well, it's a pretty far-reaching concept, right? It's not just a battery-powered track loader. It's also all electric, no hydraulics. So you have to kind of explain that to people. Uh,
Right.
and so we're working with Sunbelt. Sunbelt's the first customer of these products. Primarily, these are going into their California operations and stores. Later this year, end customers will have the opportunity in a limited run to be able to get some of these products. We're still working through how that process will work. But we're really excited to get these things out there. Again, everybody who drives one, they just come out of there with a smile on their face, and they just can't believe they had all this power and performance, and it was that quiet. And I have yet to find a customer that has said, "Now I'll keep my diesel hydraulic." Like they go, no. Again, there's run times and other things. You got to get through. Where do I charge it? And those are legitimate questions. But for that pure experience that they get in the vehicle, they really, really like it. And so that's real telling for us to say that, okay, we have something here. Now, how do we make this, more mainstream, for a lot more customers? And so that's what we're working on right now, which leads us into that S7X. That's more of a 2025 for us.
Okay.
But that skid steer version is just ultra, ultra quiet compared to the track loader. And as I mentioned, not just on the Rogue X, but you get more runtime. So you can get, between that 6 to 8 hours of total, available electric time on that vehicle. And so we talk to a lot to contractors. This is a question they always have, and they ask us. Of course, I'm always quick to point out an electric machine has no idle. Unlike a diesel machine, you get in and out of the machine, the hour meter's running when that machine is live. Electric machine, you let off the joysticks, and there's no energy being consumed, and so people are using a lot less energy with an electric machine than they might think they would be compared to diesel. In fact, our telematic data tells us that 1/3 of all of our compact loaders across the country are at idle. They're less than 1,300 RPM. So there's a lot of idle time that wouldn't happen with electric, and that's really important. But two really great concepts. We're just really excited to get these, in the field and have customers start to experience them.
Is there any kind of difference when it comes to uh, uh, the power kind of consumption whenever you move from an electric hydraulic machine over to a fully electric machine? Like you said earlier, there's no hydraulics on these machines. It's all coming from the electric motors and servos. Is there any kind of, is it more efficient to go fully electric? Does it kind of actually lead to more consumption? Tell us about that.
Well, certainly if you were battery with hydraulics, you get there's some inherent waste in that whole system. It's not as efficient. Plus, you have heat that's generated by the hydraulics, and you have the oil. And so, by eliminating that and going to electric actuation, electric drives, we can make things much, much more efficient from that standpoint. And I'm quick to point out to people, with an electric machine, as soon as you hit that press to operate button in our vehicles, you have 100% torque right there. Like, the machine is literally silent, which as soon as you hit the levers, you got 100% torque. Diesel machine, what do you have to do? You have to hit the throttle, right? You have to throttle up the machine to being able to get that full torque. And that's one of the big advantages customers notice right away. They're like, I have power at any time, full power. And yes, you do. And so it actually, in some ways, they're backing the machine off more when they're driving it, because they're so used to having to have that power up cycle of a diesel hydraulic machine.
And you mentioned you guys are kind of like eyeing 2025 for a commercial release for the S7X for it to hit the market. What are with what you guys have seen from response to the T7X, the S7X, is the use case for these pretty typical? Using them like normal skid steers and CTLs in the field, or are they catching on with a more specialized audience so far? Because you mentioned with the kind of considerations to runtime and charging and stuff like that, which are they're I think that they're hurdles, but there's stuff that you can adapt to with your workflow and everything like that. The other big consideration is the price premium of electric over the diesel conventional. So I think that obviously also factors in as well. But what is the audience right now kind of a more specialized and specific customer, or is it the run of the mill skid steer CTL customer?
I would say it's a little bit of each. Certainly, there are specialty applications going indoors. We've had a lot of requests from companies that are doing work in and out of situations. Might be a transfer station, a waste transfer station. Could be all. We had some county in Ohio left our president a voicemail saying, "Hey, we'd love to try that all electric loader," and I called them back, and they described perfectly what they would use it for. But then we also have some landscapers and concrete people who are very interested, because their customers don't want the noise in their backyard when they're doing the job. And so if they can go back and forth and do their work, do their dirt work, and not have a large interruption, that's what they want it for. And also we have contractors that talk about the noise and vibration on their operators, providing them a better experience. From that standpoint. So I'd say it's a combination of all those things. And certainly I would say customers are picking and choosing the key attributes of that feature, of that loader, and those features that make sense for them. But there's a lot of things there. And again, as I mentioned, it's a pretty wide range of people that are interested.
I want to round things out here with the AT450X, which is the other big announcement that you guys made at CES. This is an electric articulated tractor, compact tractor. It can be operated. You guys have a steering wheel on it. It's not cabless, so you can hop on and do, operate it with the steering wheel. But you can also operate it remotely or autonomously. So, what got you guys thinking about this compact articulated tractor market, and I know there's a partnership in play
Yeah.
with this as
Yep.
well. So tell us a little about the genesis of this machine and kind of what you guys are thinking down the road for it.
Yeah, well, we were actually approached by Autonomy. They had, curiously, the founder of the company sent me an email and said he was a big Bobcat fan, and told us about what he was doing and what problem he was trying to solve. And so our team went down and visited him, and I got a chance to visit and just really understand that application in specialty agriculture, permanent agriculture, going up and down these rows, all the operations they have to do. But then our vehicle, our articulating tractor, was a really ideal vehicle for this. And so it became a really good combination. And so we made an equity investment in Agtonomy, great partner. They have great technology. And so this has been a really good combination for us. And again, this is part of our strategy. We build vehicles. This is what we do. We're really good at it. But we're also looking at these far-reaching technologies. And if we can combine those from someone else, we're more than happy to do it. And so this is where Agtonomy's autonomous platform and telefarmer platform combined with our vehicle, and those two combined together to help solve these problems for these farmers. And again, we listen to them directly. It's hard to get labor, and being able to run longer hours and do multiple operations. So having multiples of these tractors going up and down the rows, with maybe only one person who's managing multiples, is a big advantage for these farms out there. And so that's what we're here for, is to help solve these issues that autonomy and electrification can bring.
Yeah, you mentioned the specialty ag kind of industry and the kind of how these will go up and down rows. You guys are going to be piloting these machines in vineyards, because it's a very specialty crop. Tell us why that is. Why the why is this machine such a good fit for that? Why is Agtonomy kind of really focusing on that space?
Yeah, so this is in vineyards and orchards. So we're talking about people are growing grapes and olives and fruit and those types of things. So that permanent agriculture is typically 48 to 60 inches wide between the rows. And so it just is really nicely suited for a smaller vehicle to go up and down. And then the articulation part, when you get to the end of the row, it turns and articulates, it doesn't tear up the ground. So there's a number of advantages with that specific platform and that size. And of course, we make all the attachments that can go on front and on the back of this vehicle to being able to do those operations. And Tim, who's the founder of Agtonomy, also owns a winery. So he started this on his own farm. He grows grapes and olives, started it, thought there had to be a better way, started with this vehicle, and then started telling his neighbors, who are some very large wine growers. I can't name their names publicly, but I can tell you lots of people who listen to this broadcast have drank their wine. And they're all interested in this kind of technology, because it's sustainable, and sustainability farming in California is very, very important. But then just being able to leverage labor to being able to help support the farm operations out there, really, really important. And so this is going to be a fun project. As you mentioned, Wayne, we've got pilot units going out this summer, and just really looking forward to getting a lot of great feedback from those customers.
Yeah, and Agtonomy, as the name would suggest, sounds like they're in the kind of AI space and trying to in the autonomous kind of space of things. This machine actually leverages AI to kind of learn from the environment, from the orchard or the vineyard that it's kind of in, and kind of react to its environment, which is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to autonomy. So I guess my question here is, tell us a little bit about those specifics there, but also how has that rapid growth of AI, of large language models, and all this other stuff that's been kind of flying around in the last few years, how is that impacting how you guys are designing around specifically autonomy? Because before, I think it was a lot of the sensor based stuff, and maybe the reactions and everything like that. But from even 2 years ago and now, I think the general public has a clearer understanding of kind of like what's going into AI and kind of some of even the capabilities of it today. But yeah, how has your design around autonomy kind of changed because of these rapid advances that we're seeing right now?
Yeah, AI is very powerful in this space, and specifically where Agtonomy is using it is for learning, and they call it trunk vision, is knowing that this is a grapevine or this is the trunk of a tree. Don't hit it, and that sounds very simple, but if you can run simulations in the digital space that run tens, 20, 30,000 simulations around different types of vines and leaves, then you go apply that in the field. And then, oh, by the way, it also learns if it encounters something new and updates the model. That's the power of AI. That's really what truly artificial intelligence is that you're able to learn very, very quickly what something is and something isn't. And to your point, Wayne, if we were doing this 5, 6, 7 years ago, we would have a bunch of sensors to say, this is a tree, this is a branch, don't hit it. And where we'd be visually trying to recognize it and uploading pictures, different pictures, and we don't have to do that anymore. So the development time of these solutions is becoming much more rapidly, and especially when it comes to autonomy. I think you're going to see a lot of advances. That's why we like working with Agtonomy, because they're on the forefront of using AI and some of those really advanced techniques. And then maybe we can use that in some of our other projects and our other vehicles down the road to being able to advance it. But yeah, it's really powerful when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think with everything we've talked about today, whether it's augmented reality or AI or electrification, autonomy, the fact that you guys are willing to show your work, but then also kind of look outside the industry and that you're open to these partnerships, it's such a huge thing, because I think you guys, as you have said multiple times now during this conversation, you understand the need to kind of be implementing these things and into the industry. But is there a technology that you think is going to have an outsized impact on construction over all the others? And that answer would be different for short term versus long term, but you can answer it however you like.
Yeah, I think a lot of the advances around how a person interacts with their vehicle, I think are going to become really important. Like, we all have smartphones, right? And we all have powerful cars and trucks, and those things are communicating. And I think the contractors and farmers or whoever they are using our equipment are going to experience the same thing. How do we take the phone, the things that you're doing, and being able to do some things in the machine, whether that's automated graded elevation. Just think if you're a concrete flat work person, or if you're doing site work and you didn't have to resurvey the site always, if you knew exactly what your elevations were at all times, what a time savings that would be. So I think those are the kinds of advances, and those things still happen with the operator in the cab of the machine. I'm very quick to point out, autonomy is not about eliminating an operator, but it's about providing different features that help an operator to do a job better. Could be a new operator along the way, but I think you're going to start to see that. We're launching one this year, our collision warning and avoidance system that we're putting together, which is active radar on the back of the machines that will actually stop and derate the machine. That's a key enabler that we will need someday if we want to go be a semi-autonomous or autonomous, but that's going to help all operators in the vehicle right now. And so those things, I think the industry is going to start to see, at least we're going to put them out there. I don't know about everybody else, but
Yeah.
and help. And I think the other thing is, and we always say this, is it's got to be simple and easy to use. Like, all this technology sounds great, and I'm sure people are listening to this podcast and going, yeah, Honeyman, whatever. And we get it, right? We read the blogs. It has to be simple and easy to use, and it has to be robust and durable. And we always keep that in mind, that if the operator can't figure it out, they're never going to use it, and it's going to be a bad technology from that standpoint. So we're always keeping that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, and I think too, I'd be interested to get your perspective on this, but I know, 10 years ago, started to, 10 years ago, we were still kind of dealing with the fallout of like the Tier 4 regulations, and there was a lot of folks upset about that and the increased costs of, electrifying really kind of like the underpinnings of the system, rather than still having the engine but bringing more electrification into the chassis of the machine and everything. And then, that quickly gave rise to, I think, a pivot in attention in terms of kind of development and engineering and everything, to clearly like battery technology was kind of like the next forefront. And along with that, autonomy and everything. And there was, quite a bit of resistance, whether it was the higher price or just kind of the distrust of the technology. Heck, even machine control was a tough sell, back during that time. Again, the increased cost is usually the first reason, but then after that, it's kind of, you get into the jobs standpoint and like replacing people with these technologies. I feel like that has cooled off quite a bit in the last several years, and I think that the reasons now that you might have skepticism toward an electric machine or autonomous machine, they're a lot more practical than just kind of bias toward kind of like a dystopian type of future idea. Now it's more of like, okay, you don't have to sell me on the technology. You have to kind of sell me on whether or not it's actually ready for prime time today, because we've been promised a lot and we've seen the capabilities and everything. What is your perception of that? I wouldn't even call it resistance to the technology anymore. It's more of a skepticism now as to whether it's ready for prime time. What is your perception of that?
Yeah, I think that's with any new technology. People have their doubts. I always say you got to try it. I always encourage people, try everything you can. That said, when you think about automotive autonomy, there's been a lot of negative press about that, and people are skeptical. However, I drive a Chevy Tahoe with Super Cruise, and they've made a lot of commercials about Super Cruise. It's the best thing ever invented. Like, I love Super Cruise, but if you ask people if they would have wanted that feature, I suspect 9 out of 10 would have voted no. But once you drove it and you go, I just hit a button and it just drives, and I don't have to put my hands on the wheel, it's a great thing. So again, you got to experience it, but I think also it's coming into other parts of people's lives. So it's just a natural fit to say, well, that technology's in my pickup. Why can't I have something in my skid steer or my excavator? And so now I think there will be a lot, oh, okay, all right, I see that over there. Well, now I can have this over here. Or I use my phone to do this for my vehicle. Now I can use my phone to do something else on my piece of equipment. So I think those kinds of things are really helping. I think your point is correct. 10 years ago, this was a really hard sell. I think today people accept the fact that there's going to be some technologies that they may want, but they're already being influenced by those today.
Yeah, and my final question for you here, when folks kind of see the stuff that you guys are working on, when customers and even your traditional customers, right? Like the guys running the diesel machines, or maybe they're 5-6 years old, and they appreciate kind of the longevity of Bobcat and the dealer network and everything that you guys bring to the table, the long history of innovation and everything. Whenever they see kind of these concept machines and the stuff that you guys are working on, what is it that you hope that they come away with when they see everything that you guys have going on in the lab?
I think it's that Bobcat is an innovative brand, and we're always going to have their back for advancing technology to make them more productive. That's always what we've been about over the many, many years. And the years I've been here, is our entire company is focused on how do we make things better for our contractors, how do they do their jobs better, how do they get them done more efficiently and cheaply. And whatever we can do that makes sense for that, we're going to do. And again, I'm quick to point out, we're going to do both. Like, we got our traditional equipment over here, and then we have the advanced technology on the other side for those customers who want it. And the customers, we're going to let them decide what they prefer and choose. We're not going to make any proclamations. We don't make proclamations on that, because it is a both-hand world we live in. And we do need to prove it. To your earlier question, Wayne, we need to prove it to the customers that this technology really works for them and makes them better and faster in their marketplace. And so, challenge accepted. We're ready to put the Bobcat name out there on the new technologies and find out what people can do with it.
Awesome. Joel, man, thank you so much for joining us today. I could keep asking you questions. I love this stuff. I really appreciate you taking the time out of the schedule to hop on and talk with us. It's always
Sure.
a pleasure to talk with you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, love talking to you, Wayne. Great questions anytime. Glad to talk to you.
All right, Joel, take care.
Okay, thank you.